Hi. Today, I want to tell you, instead of ranting about history, a little bit about overcoming that panic and terror that you may feel when you have to start writing an essay. So, I'm Emily Johnson, and I teach history and sometimes humanities at Ivy Tech Community College. So, I've written a lot of papers and I've graded even more papers. And I think we can all admit that sometimes getting started is the hardest part of writing a paper, right? So it used to be called white page panic or white page syndrome. When you have this blank page in front of you, it's so intimidating. Getting that first word down can be the hardest part. Now, you may not be writing on a page anymore. You may be doing it on the computer, but sometimes a blank screen is even more intimidating as the cursor sits and just blinks at you. So one of the ways to deal with this is to sort of ease into starting the essay. So there's no clear moment when you start. You kind of slide into it from the side so you don't have to panic. And I admit that sometimes I have this panic about starting an essay, that it can be hard to get started. And some of these techniques are things that I've actually used to get around that. Oh, by the way, do you like the backdrop? Not very original, but it's very soothing and calming to help overcome the stress you may feel about starting your essay. So I'm mostly talking about a 5-paragraph essay, a short essay, but this works just as well for a really long essay. I've used it for 60-page papers. All of these things are similar techniques. Now, as a teacher, I'm supposed to tell you, you should start with your thesis. You should have your thesis clearly in mind before you start writing your paper. But what if you don't know what your thesis is? What if this is a big 30-page research paper that you're supposed to turn in at the end of the semester, and you've read like 5 or 6 different books and articles, and you just have everything spinning around in your head, and you don't even know what your thesis is? Well, okay, then just write down the facts that you have that you think you might want to include in your essay. You can write them by hand, you can put them on note cards, you can put them in a cute little notebook with colored pencils if that makes it more fun for you, or you can type it into your computer. And if you have a lot of panic about typing it into the computer and that stresses you out, then do it on a piece of paper or do it on note cards. I'm a very visual learner, so I like to color code things. So I have been known to put it on colored note cards and sort of sort the colors by different topics. So let's say our imaginary paper topic is how to make pizza. I know nobody actually gets assigned a term paper about how to make pizza, but I thought that would be a more fun topic than, why did the Roman Empire fall? So you've got 5 or 6 different recipes here. You've got some articles about how to make pizza. You've got a book about making pizza. And it's just too much and you don't even know how to get it together or how to get it organized. You can start when you're doing your reading. You can start marking the facts and tidbits and recipes and specific details that you think you might want to use. You can write them on note cards. That's the old-fashioned way to do it. You can type them into your computer. You can take a picture of them with your cell phone. You can mark them with little Post-it notes in different colors. But now you've got this collection of facts, and you should know, we all know this, right? A list of facts is not an essay. Let me say that again, because I say it to my students all the time. A list of random facts does not constitute an essay. This can be a problem sometimes when you know a whole lot about a subject and you just want to put in every cool fact that you can think of and just stick it all in there because you love the topic. Maybe you're a Civil War buff and you finally are asked to write a paper about the Civil War and you just want to cram it all in there. Yeah, don't do that, because that's not an essay. An essay has a point and an organizational structure and a thesis, and it needs to be coherent and organized and not just a list of facts. A list of facts is one of those books that you read when you're in the bathroom. 601 facts about Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, that's not an essay either. So you've got all these facts, tidbits, examples, quotes, and whether you have them on note cards or on a piece of paper or on your computer screen, try to see if there's a pattern to them. Are some of these tips about making the pizza crust, and some of them are about making the pizza dough, and some of them are about what toppings to put on your pizza. We'll put all the crust stuff together and all the sauce stuff together and all the topping stuff together. And if you scoot it around on your computer screen or you stack up your note cards, I have even known people who they write it out by hand on a piece of paper and they highlight the different topics with different color highlighters. So all the sauce stuff is going to be highlighted in pink and all the toppings are going to be in yellow and all the crust stuff is going to be highlighted in green. Whatever works for you when you start to see a pattern. Since I write history, a history example might be, okay, that why the Roman Empire fell example. Maybe you start to notice there are outside invaders. So you could put all the outside invasions from different groups, all the facts about that, put those all together, highlight those in yellow. Then you notice there are problems with the political situation and the emperors. So you kind of put that together. You're not sure if that's going to be one topic or two, but for now, just put that all together, highlight that with pink. And then there's this other stuff about like people rebelling inside the empire, whether it's riots inside the city of Rome or conquered provinces rebelling. So you're not sure if that's going to be on one topic or two, but you kind of put that together for now. And then maybe you have some leftover really cool stuff about like how the birth rate was declining because there was lead in the water and it was causing infertility. Yeah, that doesn't really fit with anything. So guess what? You're going to leave it out of your paper, even if it's a really cool fact and you find it very interesting. You can't put all the facts in one paper. You are not writing the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. That has already been done, and it is a 2-volume doorstop of a book. You're just writing one paper. You don't have to put everything in this paper. Everything you put in should fit together. So now maybe you've got some facts in little piles, whether they're piles of note cards or what. You've kind of got them sorted, and people always ask me, okay, I've got several body paragraphs, and I'm thinking each one of these is going to be a paragraph or a section in my paper. What order do I put them in? Well, I'm a historian, so I like to put things in chronological order. So there's always that, but maybe that doesn't fit your topic. Even with the Roman Empire, maybe you've got this stuff about all the different invaders from the outside, and some of that is before and after the rebellions within the borders of the empire. So maybe chronological is not the best approach. You can do reverse chronological, where you start with the most recent things and then work backwards. But you can also do thematic, where you put categories together by what their subject is. Any of those approaches are fine. I personally, when I write my papers, if I have 3 sort of topics within my paper, 3 big chunks of information, I usually put the weakest one in the middle because I'm hoping that the person reading it will not pay as much attention to that. So if I've got 3 really strong things to talk about, I know a lot about making pizza crust and a lot about making pizza dough, but all the information I have on toppings is kind of contradictory and all the experts disagree. Yeah, that's going to be my middle one. I personally, if I am writing a paper, I would put my strongest, best supported, most evidence, just the best part I have, I would put that as the first topic. I think when a lot of teachers are grading their papers, they may kind of start to judge, this looks like an A paper or a C paper early on in the paper. So I'm going to put my strongest, best stuff close to the beginning. If I'm giving a talk, though, I'm going to put my strongest, best argument or point at the end, because I think it lingers in people's minds better. You don't have to do it that way. That's just a suggestion, but it's something students always ask. What order do I put all this stuff in? Once I've got it kind of chunked together, what order do I put this in? Well, I would put the weakest one in the middle. That's just my opinion. You can do whatever you want, but it's your paper. But So you look at your list of facts and maybe you have a lot more highlighted in pink than you do in blue and yellow. Maybe the pink stuff needs to be two separate categories. Maybe with the crust of your pizza, you need to divide the section into ingredients and techniques, or rising and raising the crust and creating it, and baking. If it's way longer than your other 2 points, you should try to make your 3 or 4 or 6 or however many your main points to kind of be sort of the same length. So if you're trying to decide, okay, should rebellion within the empires from people they conquered be in the same section as rebellion from Romans themselves within the city of Rome? Well, how long are each of those topics compared to your other topics? Try to make your topics about the same length with about the same number of facts. And this may mean that you have to leave out some of your facts. It's okay, you are not writing the definitive book on the fall of the Roman Empire or on how to make a pizza. You are not writing the 6-volume set on how to make pizza. You can leave some of the stuff out. Like that whole, do we put pineapple on a pizza or not debate? If that's not the topic of your paper, just leave that out. That's okay. It's okay to leave stuff out. So at this point, maybe you feel ready to write the paper. But if you're still having issues with that blank page or that blank screen, you can keep easing into it without really starting the writing. We're going to sneak around that start and never have one moment where we must type the first sentence of the paper. We're going to sort of fool our brains into not having a clear starting point to get upset about. So you've got these different facts sorted into different categories, and now you're going to make an outline. Outlines aren't hard, right? They're just like notes for yourself. Usually you don't even have to hand them in. Note to my actual students, yeah, you have to hand your outline in if I told you you have to hand it in. But usually you don't have to hand outlines in with your paper. So this is just something for your own use. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to be nervous. So there's nothing to get anxious about starting your outline. So in your first paragraph of your outline and your essay, you're going to have a thesis. Maybe you haven't quite figured out what your thesis is. Okay. But you know now what your 3 or more main points are going to be. So if your main points are going to be the 3 most important components of the pizza are the crust, the sauce, and the toppings. And I will explain how to make great sauce, crust, and toppings in my paper. You have your 3 main points. You probably already have figured out your thesis. That wasn't so bad, was it? Now, another way to think of the thesis is I believe blank because of 1, 2, and 3. So if it's an opinion paper and you're going to say, I believe Indiana Jones is the greatest movie ever because of the chase scenes, the fight scenes, and the crazy characters, that's a thesis. I believe blank because of 1, 2, and 3. Now, if this is longer than a 5-paragraph essay, maybe you have 5 points to make or something, that's fine. This is just an example. But saying, I believe blank because of A, B, and C, that's a thesis. Better? Do you have a thesis yet? Okay, so we're going to continue on with the outline. I like the very first paragraph to go ahead and tell what your main points are going to be. So if we have our Roman Empire example, you're going to say in your first paragraph that Rome had so many problems at the same time that it collapsed. You're going to say what those 3 problems, the 3 big categories of problems are: invaders from the outside, rebellion from the inside, and political weaknesses within the empire itself. That's probably enough for first paragraph, you know? So you're figuring out your outline and you're going to put all your different facts into those 3 categories. Each of your 3 main sections, whether that's a paragraph or like 5 pages long, needs kind of a topic sentence at the beginning of that section. So if it's going to be making the pizza crust, you are actually going to say at the beginning of the section about how to make the best pizza crust, you're going to say, basically, now I wouldn't put it in these words, but now we're going to talk about how to make the pizza crust. So you might say something like, the first step in making the pizza is making the crust. So you have this kind of little topic sentence for that whole section, and then you're going to have all those details about how to make the crust, like make sure your yeast is fresh, what kind of flour are you going to use, what temperature to preheat the oven to, how long does it have to rise. All those specific facts are going to go in there. So you just plug them into your outline now. You're not writing the paper, you're just writing the outline. Things don't have to be in complete sentences. You don't have to worry about grammar or spelling. You don't have to worry about any of that yet. So as you fill in your outline, you should get all the facts you're going to use plugged in. Again, at this point, consider, is one of these sections way longer than the others? Is one way shorter? Do I need to find more facts for one of them? Or maybe I need to cut out some of those facts. Now, if you have a really detailed outline at this point, you may feel that you're ready to go ahead and start writing your paper. But if you're not ready to go ahead and start writing, then go through your outline and clean it up a little bit. Time to edit. I actually, at this point, I like to print out the outline and edit it on paper, because I think that switching between computer and paper kind of makes me think of different things. But, you know, I'm kind of an old fart here, so maybe that doesn't work for you. You can totally do it all on the screen or totally do it all on paper, whatever you prefer. But this is when you're checking for any mistakes. Do I need to go look back at that book and make sure this is the right fact? Do I have that oven temperature right? Things like that. Check those details to make sure they're correct, and expand your outline so each of those things becomes a complete sentence. Come on, you're just writing a sentence at a time. But now think about, is it coherent? Am I using just the right word? Just expand your outline into complete sentences. So like each line of your outline is going to be a complete sentence. Then you look at this, and this is probably 85% of the work of writing the essay is done at this point. You're more than halfway done with this essay. You have done more than half of the work. And you should sort of have some idea, am I getting close to it being long enough? By the way, I've had more than one student mention this to me. As you're writing your essay on the computer, if it's supposed to be double spaced, 5 pages, make sure you have it set on double spaced, instead of realizing that you forgot that and you just wrote twice as much as you had to. Yeah, so make sure if you're supposed to turn it in double space, you already have it double spaced. Maybe this is the time to check the word count. Are you getting close to it being long enough? You know, you may be 80, 85% of the length is written. Now you can just take those sentences and copy and paste them, retype, whatever's easiest for you, into the computer. You've already written these, you're just transferring them. Maybe you'll find a couple more mistakes, but you know, hey, that's okay. This is not about editing yet. You're just transferring them onto the screen, or if you're writing on paper, which you probably are not, transferring it onto the paper. Guess what? You no longer have a blank page. You have written a large part of your essay already. By taking baby steps, you didn't have that moment of anxiety about, now I will start writing this essay. Less pressure by kind of taking small steps. No one step was that scary or that hard. And now is the time to read the whole thing carefully and see if it makes sense. You're not proofreading, you're not looking for spelling or grammar, or did I use the perfect word? You are reading it overall for sense and flow. Did I repeat myself? Is everything clear? If you had your 3 or more main points in the first paragraph, okay, did I actually cover all 3 of those points? This is also the time to reread the question. The question may be very open-ended. It may be, you know, pick a topic, get it approved by your teacher and write about it. But it may be really specific, like give 3 reasons why the Roman Empire fell. Reread the question and make sure that you're answering the question you're not leaving any of it out, you're not skipping part of it, and that you are actually answering the question written. Because I've had students, when I ask them to say, compare the technology used in World War I with that used in World War II, they only talked about one. That means they only got half credit. Not good, huh? Not a great grade. And sometimes this happens more on tests, on essay tests than homework, but sometimes students are so sure they know what I'm going to ask that they don't pay attention to what the question is. I don't understand why this happens, but it does sometimes. Like if I said, tell me why the Roman Empire fell, give 3 reasons and explain them. And instead the student just writes about how awesome the Roman army is. No, that is not the assignment. No. So this is the time in the process of writing an essay to make sure that you really answered the question and that you're following all the instructions, that your paper is coming out to be about the right length. If it's too short, go back to those lists of facts that you had when you sorted them into different categories. Are there more categories or more facts that you could include? Do you need to add a whole additional section? Do you just need to add a few facts? Really, when you just write a couple paragraphs that don't say anything to make your paper longer, yeah, your teacher can totally tell you're doing that. If you're just adding fluff and nonsense to get to the word limit or the page requirement, yeah, we can totally tell. We've read a lot of essays, and you know what? Your teachers, once upon a time, they were students too, and they tried all of these tricks. If somebody has finished college, they have tried every trick for slacking off while writing a paper. Using a bigger font, putting in a bunch of adjectives. Oh, I hate to say this, English teachers, but English teachers like to tell their students to use a funnel introduction. I don't know if you've ever heard that. So they start really broad and then they come down and get specific to their topic. So for example, in the history of mankind, there have been many great empires. There was the Persian Empire that was the world's largest land empire. There was the Mongol Empire that was the richest empire in the world at the time. There's the British Empire that controls the seas. But perhaps the most amazing of these was the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire fell apart under the sheer size and weight of its colossal administration. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons why the Roman Empire fell. Yeah, you just BS'd a whole bunch and your teacher totally knows that. I personally, as a history teacher, I'm sorry, English teachers, I hate the funnel introduction because it's a waste of time. Maybe if you were writing a 100-page paper, okay, but don't use this with a 5-paragraph essay because you just totally wasted half a page. And I know that you were just BSing. So you've basically got your essay written. You've read over it for sense and coherence and flow. You've made sure, hopefully, that it answers all parts of the question. This is the time to go through and check for spelling and grammar. Are these complete sentences? And this is also the time to go through and add all your citations in. Add your footnotes or endnotes. Use whatever format your teacher tells you to. This is super easy to do. There are lots of guides on the internet for how to do this, but make sure that every person that you got an idea from, you need to credit them with that idea. It was not your original idea that the Roman Empire fell because of the Visigoths. You got that from somebody else. Even if you're not quoting them, you need to cite that idea. If you ran into that person and they saw your essay, would you be embarrassed because you didn't give them credit? Then you better put a footnote in. Footnotes are not just for quotes. This should be a whole nother essay, a whole nother topic. But your essay should be almost done. There are other sources that talk about how to proofread, about how to find grammar mistakes, how to correctly cite your sources, how to do your sources used, bibliography at the end. But I hope that some of my tips and suggestions helped you a little bit with that blank screen syndrome, that there was no big dramatic moment where you started your essay, and helped you be less traumatized by the essay writing, and maybe helped you not procrastinate so much. They always talk about for getting fit or losing weight, you should use baby steps to change your habits. Well, maybe this video's baby steps helps you ease into writing an essay or a paper with a little less trauma, a little less stress. And if you have suggestions for future topics that you would like to see, let me know in the comments. Remember to be nice to each other in the comments. Just because this is the internet does not mean we have to act like barbarians. And now go read a history book. History is awesome. Go read about it. Thank you.